What's the order of the? Harry began. Not here, boy, Charlotte Moody. Wait till we're inside. He pulled a piece of parchment out of Harry's hand and set fire to it with his wand tip. As the message curled into flames and floated to the ground, Harry looked around at the houses again. They were standing outside number 11. He looked at the left and saw number 10. To the right, however, was number 13. But where's... Think about you, how just memorize it, said Lupin quickly. Harry thought, and no sooner had he reached the part about number 12, Grimmauld Place, than a better door emerged out of nowhere between numbers 11 and 13, followed swiftly by dirty walls and grimy windows. It was a tout and extra house had inflated, pushing on their inside of its way. Harry gaped at it. The stairwell is number 11, thudded on. Apparently the muggles inside hadn't even felt anything. Come on, Harry, growled Moody, prodding Harry in the back. Harry walked up the worn stone steps, starting at the newly materialized door. Its black paint was shabby and scorched. The silver door knocked was in the form of the twisted serpent. There was no keyhole or letterbox. Lupin pulled out his wand and tapped the door once. Harry heard many loud, metallic click and weight sounded like the clatter of a chain. The door cracked open. Get in quick, Harry, Lupin whispered, but don't go far inside and don't touch anything. Harry stepped over the threshold into the almost total darkness of the hall. He could smell damp, dust, and sweetish, rotting smell. The place had the feeling of a derelict building. He looked over his shoulder and saw the others filling in behind him. Lupin and Tom carrying his trunk and Hedwig cake. Moody was standing on the top step and releasing the ball of light the porter had stolen from the street lamps. They flew back to their bulbs, and the square beyond glowed memorially with orange light before Moody lifted inside and closed the front door, so that the darkness in the hall became complete. Here, he rapped Harry head over the head with his wand. Harry fled as thought something hot was trickling down his back his time, and now that the deliciousement charm but have lifted. Now stay still, everyone, while I give us a bit of light in here, Moody whispered, giving Harry an odd feeling of foreboding. It was as though they had just entered the house of the dinged person. He heard a soft hissing noise, and then old-fashioned gas lamps sputtered into life all along the walls, casting a flickering, insubstantial light over the peeling wallpaper and shrapnelled carpet of the long, gloomy hallway, where a cobwebby chandelier glimmered overhead and age-blackened portraits hung, crooked on the walls.
Harry heard something scuttling behind the base part. Both the chandelier and the candelabra on the table nearby were shaped like serpents. There were hurried footsteps, and Ron's mother, Mrs. Weasley, emerged from a door at the far end of the hall. She was beaming in welcome as she hurried towards them. Throughout, Harry noticed that she was rather thinner and paler than she had been last time he had seen her. "Oh, Harry, it's lovely to see you," she whispered, pulling him into a rib-cracking hug before holding him at arm's length and examining him critically. "You're looking picky. You need filling up. But you'll have to wait a bit for dinner, I'm afraid." She turned to the gangs of wizards behind him and whispered arrogantly, "He's just arrived." The meeting started. The wizards behind Harry all made noise of interest and excitement. and began filing past Harry towards the door's road, which Mrs. Weasley had just come. Harry made to follow Lupin, but Mrs. Weasley held him back. "No, Harry, the meeting's only for members of the Order. Ron and Hermione are upstairs. You can wait with them until the meeting's over and then we'll have dinner. And keep your voice down in the hall," she added in an arrogant whisper. "Why? I don't want to wake anything up." "Would you? I'll explain later. I've got to hurry. I'm supposed to be at the meeting. I'll just show you where you're sleeping." Pressing her finger to her lips, she led him on tiptoes past a pair of long, moth-eaten curtains, behind which Harry supposed there must be another door, and after skirting a large umbrella stand that looked as though it had been made for a servant's leg, they started up dark staircase, passing a row of shanked heads mounted on plaques on the wall. A closer look showed Harry that the heads belonged to house elves. All of them had the same rather snout-like nose. Harry's bewilderment deepened with every step he took. What on earth were they doing in a house that looked as though it belonged to darkest of wizards? "Mrs. Weasley, why?" "Ron and Hermione will explain everything, dear. I really got to dash," Mrs. Weasley whispered distractedly. There. They had reached the second landing. "Here's the door on the right. I'll call you when it's over." And they hurried off downstairs again. Her closed the tiny landing, turned the bedroom doorknob, which was shaped like a serpent's head, and opened the door. He caught a brief glimpse of a gloomy height ceiling to be embedded through, then were a loud twirling noise, followed by an even louder shriek, and his vision was completely obscured by a large quantity of very bushy hair. Hermione has thrown herself onto him in a hack, nearly knocked him flat, while Ron's tiny oval pig window zoomed excitedly round and round their heads. "Hurry! Ron, he's here! Harry's here! We didn't hear you arrive! Oh, how are you? Are you alright? Have you been first with us? I bet you have. I know our letters were useless, but we couldn't tell you anything. Dumbledore made us swear we wouldn't. Oh, we were got so much to tell you. And you got to tell us the Dementors. When we heard and said ministry hearing, it's just outrageous. I've looked it all up. They can't expel you. They just can't. This provision in the decree of the regulations of underage sorcery for use of magic in life-threatening situations. Let him breathe, Hermione, said Ron, grinning, closing the door behind Harry. He seemed to have grown several more inches during their months apart, making him taller and more gangly looking than ever. Short the long nose, bright red hair, and freckles were the same.
Hermione, still beaming, let go of Harry. But before she could say another word, there was a soft whooshing sound, and something white soared from the top of a dark wardrobe and landed gently on Harry's shoulder. Hedwig! The snowy owl clicked her beak and nibbled his ear affectionately as Harry stroked her feathers. "She's been in a right state," said Ron. "Picked us half to death when she brought your last letters. Look at this." He showed her the index finger of his right hand, which sported a half-held but clearly deep cut. "Oh yeah," Harry said. "Sorry about that, but I wanted answers, you know." "We wanted to give them to you, mate," said Ron. "Hermione was going spare. She kept saying you'd do something stupid if you were stuck all on your own without news. But Dumbledore made us." "Swear not to tell me," said Harry. "Yeah," Hermione already said. The warm glow that had flared inside him at the sight of his two best friends was exquisite, as something icy flooded the pit of his stomach. After yearning to see them for a solid month, he felt he would rather Ron and Hermione left him alone. There was a strained silence in which Harry stroked Hedwig automatically, not looking at either of the others. He seemed to think it was the best, said Hermione rather breathlessly. "Dumbledore, I mean." "Right," said Harry. He noticed that her hands too bore the marks of Hedwig's beak and found that he was not at all sorry. "I think he thought you were safest with the Muggles," Ron began. "Yeah," said Harry, raising his brows. "Have others of you been attacked by Dementors this summer?" "Well, no, but that's why he'd had people from the Order of the Phoenix telling you all the time." Harry felt a great jolt in his guts, as thought he had just missed a step going downstairs. So everyone had know he was being followed expect him. "Didn't work that well, so did it?" said Harry, doing his utmost to keep his voice even. "Had to look after myself after all, didn't I?" "He was so angry," said Hermione in an almost awestruck voice. "Dumbledore, we saw him. When he found out Mandangas had left before his shift had ended, he was scary. Well, I'm glad he left," Harry said coldly. "If he hadn't, I wouldn't have done magic, and Dumbledore would probably have left me his private drive at summer. Aren't you worried about the Ministry of Magic hearing?" said Hermione quietly. "No," Harry lied definitely. He walked away from them, looking around with Hedwig nestled contentedly on his shoulder, but this room was not likely to raise his spirits. It was dank and dark. A blank stretch of canvas in an ornate picture frame was all that relieved the burdens of the peeling walls, and as Harry passed in, he thought he heard someone larking out of St. Snagger. "So why's Dumbledore been so keen to keep me in the dark?" Harry asked, still trying hard to keep his voice casual. "Did you ever bother to ask him at all?" He glanced up just in time to see them exchanging a look that told him he was behaving just as they had feared he would. It did nothing to improve his temper.
"We told Dumbledore we wanted to tell you what was going on," said Ron. "We did, mate, but he's really busy now. We've only seen him twice since we came here and he didn't have much time. He just made us swear not to tell you important stuff when we wrote. He said the owls might be interested. He could still keep me informed if he'd wanted to," Harry said shortly. "You're not telling me he doesn't know ways to send message without owls?" Hermione glanced at Ron and then said, "I thought that too, but he didn't want you to know anything." "Maybe he thinks I can be trusted," said Harry, watching their expressions. "Don't be thick," said Ron, looking hugely disconnected. "Or that I can't take care of myself." "Of course he doesn't think that," said Hermione anxiously. "So how come I have to stay at the Dursleys while you two get to join in everything that's going on here?" said Harry, the words tumbling over on one another in a rush, his voice growing louder with every word. "How come you two are allowed to know everything that's going on?" "We're not," Ron interrupted. "Mom won't let us near the meetings. She says we're too young." But before he knew it, Harry was shouting, "So you haven't been in the meeting? Big deal. You've still been here, haven't you? You've still been together. Me, I've been stuck at the Dursleys for a month, and I've handled more than you two ever manage. And Dumbledore know it. Who saved the Sorcerer's Stone? Who got rid of Riddle? Who saved both you skins from the Dementors?" Every bitter and resentful thought that Harry had had in the past month was pouring out of him. His frustration at the lack of news. They heard that they had all been together without him. His fury at being flawed and not told about it. All the feelings he was held some of finally burst their boundaries. Hedwig took fright at the noise and soared off on top of the wardrobe again. Pigwidgeon whirred an alarm and zoomed even faster around their heads. Who had to get past dragons and sprints and every other foul thing last year? Who saw him come back? Who had to escape from him? Me. Ron was straining that with his mouth half open, clearly stunned and at a loss of anything to say, while Hermione looked on the verge of tears. "But why should I know what's going on? Why should anyone bother to tell me what's been happening?" "Harry, we wanted to tell you, we really did," Hermione began. "Can't we wanted to touch much, can you, or you'd have sent me an owl, but Dumbledore made you swear." "Well, he did. For weeks I've been stuck in private drive, knocking papers out of bins to try and find out what's been going on. We wanted to. I suppose you've been having a real laugh, haven't you, all holed up here together?" "No, honest, Harry, we're really sorry," said Hermione desperately, her eyes now sparkling with tears. "You're absolutely right, Harry. I'd be furious of it with me."
Harry glared at her, still breathing deeply, then turned away from them again, pacing up and down. Hedwig hooted glumly from the top of the wardrobe. There was a long pause, broken only by the mournful creak of the floorboards below Harry's feet. "What is this place, anyway?" he shouted Ron at Hermione. "Headquarters of the Order of the Phoenix," said Ron at once. "Is anyone going to bother telling me what the Order of the Phoenix?" "It's a secret society," said Hermione quickly. "Dumbledore's in charge. He founded it. It's the people who fought against you know who last time." "Who's in it?" said Harry, coming to a halt with his hands in his pockets. "Quite a few people." "We met about 20 of them," said Ron, "but we think there are more." Harry glared at them. "Well?" he demanded, looking from one to the other. Said Ron. "Well, what?" "Voldemort," said Harry furiously, and both Ron and Hermione winced. "What's happening? What's he up to? Where is he? What are we doing to stop him?" "We told you, the Order don't let us in their meetings," said Hermione nervously, "so we don't know the details, but we've got a general idea," he added hastily, seeing the look on Harry's face. "Fred and George have invented extractable ears, see," said Ron. "They're really useful." "Extractable? Ears, yeah. Only we've had to stop using them lately because Mom found out and went berserk. Fred and George had to hide them all to stop Mom beating them, but we got a good bit of use out of them before Mom realized what was going on. We know some of the order and following non-div eaters, keeping tabs on them, you know? Some of them are working on recruiting more people to the order, said Hermione. And some of them are standing ground over something, said Ron. They're always talking about guard duty. Couldn't have been me, could it? Said Harry sarcastically. Oh, yeah, said Ron with a look of dawning comprehension. Harry snorted. He walked around the room again, looking anywhere but at Ron and Hermione. So, what have you two been doing? If you're not allowed in meetings, he demanded. You said you'd been busy. We have, said Hermione quickly. We've been decontaminating this house. It's been empty for ages and stuff's been breeding in here. We managed to clean out the kitchen, most of the bedrooms, and I think we're going to drawing room tomorrow. With two loud croaks, Fred and George, Ron's elder twin brothers, had materialized out of thin air in the middle of the room. Pigwidgeon twittered more wildly than ever and zoomed off to join Hedwig on top of the wardrobe.
Stop doing that, Hermione said weakly to the twins, who wear a real red hat as Ron, so stroked and slicked his shoulder. Hello, Harry, said George Bam at him. We thought we had your little stones. You don't want to bottle up your underwear like that? Harry, let it all out, said Fred, also bailing. There might be a couple of people 5 miles away who didn't hear you. Utilize your operation tense, then, asked Harry grumpily. With distinction, said Fred, who was holding that looked a piece of very long /cordal strings. It would have taken you about 30 seconds longer to walk down the stairs, said Ron. Time is gallons, little brother, said Fred. Anyway, Harry, you're interfering with the reception. Stabilities, he added in response to Harry's raised eyebrows, holding up the string. With Harry also was staring out onto the landing. We're trying to hear that's going on downstairs. You want to be careful, said Ron, staring at the air. If Mom sees one of them again, it was the risk that a major meeting they're having, said Fred. The door opened, had a long mane of red hair upon it. Oh, hello, Harry, said Ron's younger sister, Ginny brightly. I thought I had your voice. Turning to Fred and George, he said, it's not to be with extendabilities. She is done and put an imperturbable charm of the kitchen door. How do you know? Said George, looking crestfallen. Tonks told me how to find out, said Jiminy. You just talk stuff at the door, and if it can't make contact, the door's been imperturbable. I have been flicking doorknobs at it from the top of the stairs, and they just saw away from it. So there's no way for the excitabilities will be able to get under the gap. Fred heaved a deep sigh. Shame, I really fancied finding out what old Snape's been up to. Snape, said Harry quickly. Is he here? Yes, said George, carefully closing the door and sitting down on one of the beds. Fred and Jimmy followed. Giving a report, top secret. Git, said Fred idly. He's on our side now, said Hermione reprovingly. Ron stoned. Doesn't stop him being a git. The way he looks at us when he sees us. Bill doesn't like him either, said Ginny, as though settle the matter.
Harry was not sure his anger had abated yet, but his thirst for information was now overcoming his urge to keep shouting. He sank onto the bed opposite the others. Is Bill here? He asked. I thought he was working in Egypt. He applied for a desk job so he could come home and work for the other, said Fred. He says he misses the Toms, but he smirked. There are compensations. What do you mean? Remember old Fleur Delacour? Said George. She's got a job at Gringotts to improve her English. And Bill's been giving her a lot of private lessons, sniggered Fred. Charlie is in the order too, said George. But he's still in Romania. Dumbledore wants as many foreign visitors brought in as possible, so Charlie's trying to make contacts on his days off. Couldn't Percy do that? Harry asked. The last he had heard, the third Weasley brother was working in the Department of International Magical Cooperation at the Ministry of Magic. At these words, all the Weasleys and Hermione exchanged darkly significant looks. Whatever you do, don't mention Percy in front of Mom and Dad, Ron told Harry in a tense voice. Why not? Because every time Percy's name mentioned, Dad breaks whatever he's holding and Mom starts crying, Fred said. It's been awful, said Ginny sadly. I think we're well short of him, said George with an uncharacteristically ugly look on his face. What's happened? Harry said. Percy and Dad had a row, said Fred. I've never seen Dad row with anyone like that. It's normally Mom who shouts. It was the first week back after term ended, said Ron. We were about to come and join the order. Percy came home and told us he'd been promoted. You're kidding, said Harry. Though he knew perfectly well that Percy was highly ambitious, Harry's impression was Percy had not made a great success of his first job at the Ministry of Magic. Percy had committed the fairly large oversight of failing to notice that his boss was being controlled by Lord Voldemort. Not that the Ministry had believed that, they all thought that Mr. Crouch had gone mad. Yeah, we were all surprised, said George, because Percy got into a lot of trouble about Crouch. There was an inquiry and everything. They said Percy ought to have realized Crouch was off his rocker and informed a superior. But you know Percy, Crouch left him in charge, he wasn't going to complain. So how come they promoted him? That's exactly what we wondered, said Ron, who seemed very keen to keep normal conversation going now that Harry had stopped yelling. He came home really pleased with himself, even more pleased than usual, if you can imagine that, and told Dad that he'd been offered a position in Fudge's own office. A really good one for someone only a year out of Hogwarts, junior assistant to the minister. He expected Dad to be all impressed, I think.
Only that wasn't, said Fred grimly. Why not? Said Harry. Well, apparently Fudge has been storming around the ministry checking that nobody's having any contact with Dumbledore, said George. Dumbledore's name moved with the minister these days, see, said Fred. They all think he's just making trouble saying you know who's back. That's why Fudge has made it clear that anyone who's in league with Dumbledore can clear out their desks, said George. Trouble is, Fudge suspects that he knows he's friendly with Dumbledore and he's always thought that a bit of weirdo because of his muggle obsession. But what's this got to do with Percy? asked Harry confused. I'm coming to that. That recounts Fudge only wants Percy in his office because he wants to use him to spy on the family and Dumbledore. Harry let out a low whistle, but Percy loved it. Ron laughed in a hollow sort of way. He went completely berserk. He said lots of terrible stuff. He said he's been having to struggle against Dad's lowest reputation ever since he joined the ministry and that Dad's got no ambition and that's why we always been, had a lot of money, I mean. What? Said Harry in disbelief, as Ginny made a noise like an angry cat. I know, said Ron in a low voice. And it got worse. He said Dad was an idiot to run around with Dumbledore, that Dumbledore was heading for big trouble and that was going to go down with him, and that he, Percy, knew where his loyalty lay, and it was with the ministry. And if Mom and Dad were going to become traitors to the ministry, he was going to make sure everyone knew he didn't belong to our family anymore. And he packed his bags the same night and left. He's living here, in London now. Harry fell under his breath. He had always liked Percy, least of Ron's brothers, but he had never imagined he would say such things to Mercy Wellesley. Mom's been in the right state, said Ron, crying and stuff. She came up to London to try and talk to Percy, but he slammed the door in her face. I don't know what he does if he meets Dad at work. Ignores him, I suppose. But Percy
must know Voldemort's back, said Harry slowly. He's not stupid, he must know your mom, and that wouldn't risk everything without proof. Yeah, well, your name got dragged into the row, said Ron, shooting Harry a furtive look. Percy said, the only evidence was your word, and I don't know. He didn't think it was good enough. Percy takes the Daily Prophet seriously, said Hermione tartly, and the others all nodded. What are you talking about? Said Harry asked, looking around them all. They were all regarding him warily. Haven't you been getting the Daily Prophet? Hermione asked nervously. Yes, I have, said Harry. Have you ever been reading it thoroughly? Hermione asked still more anxiously. Not cover to cover, said Harry defensively. If they were going to report anything about Voldemort, it would be headline news, wouldn't it? The other flinched at the sound of the name.
Hermione hurried on. Well, you'd need to read it cover to cover to pick it up. By them they mention you a couple of times a week. But I'd have seen. Not if you have only been reading the front page, you wouldn't, said Hermione, shaking her head. I am not talking about big articles. They just slip you in like you are a standing joke. Would you? It's quite nasty, actually, said Hermione in a voice of forced calm. They are just building on Rita's stuff. But she is not writing for them anymore, is she? Oh no, she's kept her promise. Not that she's got any choice. Hermione added with satisfaction. But he laid the foundation for what they're trying to do now. Which is what? Said Harry impatiently. Okay, you know, she wrote that you were collapsing all over the place and saying your scar was hurting and all that. Yeah, said Harry, who was not likely to forget Rita Skeeter's stories about him in a hurry. Well, they are written about you as though you're the deluded, attention-seeking person who thinks he's a great tragic hero or something, said Hermione very fast, as though it would be less unpleasant for Harry to hear these facts quickly. They keep slipping in sweet comments about you. If some far-fetched story appears, they say something like a tale worthy of Harry Potter. And if anyone has a funny accident or anything, it's let's hope he hasn't got a scar on his forehead, or will be asked to worship him next. I don't want anyone to worship, Harry began hotly. I know you don't, said Hermione quickly, looking frightened. I know, Harry, but you see what they're doing. They want to turn you into someone nobody will believe. Fudge is behind it, I'll bet anything. They want wizards on the street to think you're just some stupid boy who's a bit of a joke, who tells ridiculous tall stories because he loves being famous and wants to keep it going. I didn't ask, I didn't want. Voldemort killed my parents. Harry spluttered, I got famous because he murdered my family, but couldn't kill me. Who wants to be famous for that? Don't they think I'd rather never? We know, Harry, said Ginny honestly. And, of course, they didn't report a word about the Dementors attacking you, said Hermione. Someone told them to keep that quiet. That should be been a really big story. Out of control Dementors. They haven't even reported that you broke the international stature of secrecy. We thought it would tie in so well. We see this image of you as some stupid show off, we think there. Biding their time until you're expelled. Then they are really going to go to town. I mean, if you're expelled, obviously, she went on hastily. You really shouldn't be, not if they abide by their own laws. There's no case against you. They were back on the heroin and Harry didn't want to think about it. He caused around for another change of subject, but was saved the necessity of fighting won by the sound of footsteps come upstairs. Oh.
Fred gave the extendable air a heart attack. There was another loud crack, and he and George vanished. Seconds later, Mrs. Wells appeared in the bedroom doorway. The meeting's over. You can calm down and have dinner now. Everyone's dying to see you, Harry. And who's left all these dungballs outside the kitchen door? Crookshanks, said Ginny unblushingly. He loves playing with them. Oh, said Mrs. Wells. I thought it might have been Cracker. He keeps doing odd things like that. Now, don't forget to keep your voices down in the hall. Ginny, your hands are filthy. What have you been doing? Go and wash them before dinner, please. Ginny grimaced at the other and followed her mother out for the room, leaving Harry alone with Ron and Hermes again. Both of them were watching him affectionately as thought they feared that we would start shouting again. Now that everyone else had gone, the sight of them looking so nervous made him feel slight ashamed. Look, he muttered, but Ron shook his head. And number one said quietly, "We knew you'd be angry, Harry. We really don't blame you. But you got to understand we did try and pursued Dumbledore." "Yeah, I know," said Harry grudgingly. He caused around for a topic to change the subject from Dumbledore. The very thought of him made Harry's inside burn with anger again. "Who's Cratchit?" he asked. "The house elf who lives here," said Ron. "Not a never met one like him." Name one throat at Ron. "He's not a nutter, Ron. His life's ambition is to have his head cut off and stuck up on a plaque just like his mother," said Ron irritably. "Is that normal?" Name one. Well, if he is a bit strange, it's not his fault." Ron rolled his eyes at Harry. "Hermione still hasn't give up on Speth." "It's not Speth," said Hermione happily. "It's the Social for the Promotion of Elfish Wealth. And it's not just me. Dumbledore says we should be kind to Cratchit too." Yeah, said Ron. "Say, Mom, I'm staring." He led the way out of the door and onto the landing. But before they could descend the stairs, "Hold it!" Ron Fraser, flying out, and I'm to stop Harry and Hermione walking any farther. They're still in the hall. We might be able to hear something. The three of them looking costly over the banister. The gloomy hallway below was packed with witches and wizards, including all of Harry Grimmauld. They were whisper excitable together. In the very center of the group, Harry saw the dark, crazy-haired head and prominent nose of his least favorite teacher at Hogwarts, Professor Snape. Harry leaned farther over the banister. He was very interested in what Snape was doing for the Order of the Phoenix. A thin piece of flesh-colored string destined in front of Harry's eyes. Looking up, he saw Fred and George on the landing above, Costello lowering the extendable ear towards the dark knot of people below.
A moment later, however, they began to move towards the front door and out of sight. "Damn it," Harry heard Fred whisper as he hoisted the extendable ear back up again. They heard the front door open and then close. "Snape never eats here," Ron told Harry quietly. "Thanks God, come on. And don't forget to keep your voice down in the hall, Harry," Hermione whispered. As they passed the row of house elf heads on the wall, they saw Lupin, Mrs. Weasley, and Tonks at the front door, magically sealing its many looks and bolts behind those who had just left. "We are eating down in the kitchen," Mrs. Weasley whispered, meeting them at the bottom of the stairs. "Harry, dear, if you'll just tiptoe across the hall, it's through this door here." Crash! "Tonks!" cried Mrs. Weasley, exasperatedly turning to look behind her. "I'm sorry," wailed Tonks, who was lying flat on the floor. "It's a stupid umbrella stand. The second time I've tripped over." But the rest of her words were drowned by a horrible, ear-splitting, blood-curdling screech. The moth-eaten velvet curtains Harry had passed earlier had flown apart, but there was no door behind them. For a split second, Harry thought he was looking through a window behind which an old woman in a black cap was screaming and screaming, and thought she was being tortured. Then he realized it was simply a life-size portrait, but the most realistic and the most unpleasant he had ever seen in his life. The old woman was drooling, her eyes were rolling, the yellowing skin of her face scratched throat as she screamed, and all along the hall behind them, the other portraits awoke and began to yell too. So that Harry actually screwed up his eyes and the noise and clapped his hands over his ears. Lupin and Mrs. Weasley darted forward and tried to tug the curtains shut over the old woman, but they would not close and screeched louder than ever, brandishing clouded hands and though trying to tear at their faces. Filth, scum, but products of deal and wilfulness, half-breeds, mutants, freaks, begone from this place. How dare you be full of the house of my fathers? Tonks apologized over and over again, at the same time dragging the huge heavily troll's leg back off the floor. Mrs. Weasley abandoned the attempt to close the curtains and hurried up and down the hall, stunning all the other portraits with her rant. Then a man with long black hair came charging out of the door facing Harry. "Shut up, you horrible old hag! Shut up!" he roared, seizing the curtains Mrs. Weasley had abandoned. The old woman's face blanched. "You!" she howled, her eyes popping at the sight of the man. "Blood, traitor, abomination, shave my flesh!" "I said, shut up!" roared the man, and with a stupendous effort he had Lupin managed to force the curtains close again. The old woman's screeches died, and a knuckling silence fell, paddling silently and sweeping his long dark hair out of his eyes. Harry, good father, Sirius, turned to face him. "Hello, Harry," he said grimly. "I see you've met my mother."